right, welcome to the Sports Guys. We have an amazing show for you tonight. We have one of your favorite guests that we've ever had on the show, and that is Cam Wyrick. How you doing, Cam?
Doing great tonight, guys. Good to be back with the bros, ready to talk some sports with you guys. The Bro
Man,
Show.
really,
Yeah,
really glad you're back. How you doing, Robbie?
doing great. Things are good. Real excited about this one.
Yeah, I am too. So, Cam, last time you came towards the end of the show, we could tell it was really clicking between us and you. And we, at that time, we were talking about NIL, which was a huge topic for the show. And tonight, we're going to talk about another topic that we get a lot of comments on, and that is transfer portal. And people are just incredibly confused about it. They don't understand the rules of it. Why can people just transfer anytime they want, willy nilly? No loyalty to the school anymore. What are the rules? So we're going to try to go through all those tonight and try to clear some of that up.
Sounds great. We'll do the best we can with the snowball that is the transfer portal. I know last show we talked about what that snowball looks like up top, and when it gets going downhill, it gets bigger and bigger, and the transfer portal has changed a lot. It's far from perfect, but we'll do the best we can for your listeners.
That's
Excited,
great.
excited to
And,
delve in.
and then the other half of the topic we're going to talk about tonight really has to do with a lot of your company, which is BrandBoss. And we're going to talk about how do you brand yourself as an athlete in this environment with transfer portal, with NIL, with the constant putting your name out there, both on social media and then trying to get to a different school or a different professional organization. So we're going to try to get into your philosophy on how to build your brand as an athlete. So that's going to be great.
Super.
Looking forward to it. So why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself, about BrandBoss, and give us an update what you've been doing since you were here a couple months ago.
Well, I know we'll have some repeat listeners, so I apologize if anything is kind of a repeat of last time, but I realize too we're catering to hopefully an audience of new folks and maybe some of what we talked about they've forgotten about. So BrandBoss was founded at my breakfast table in here after 28 years with a Fortune 300 job over two different industries and really just kind of looking in the mirror about what was next. And my life
Mhm.
really changed the day I found out that the NIL snowball in college that I'd been watching was about to hit our high school living rooms, and in fact, even our middle school living rooms. I've got some stories about. But that overly concerned me, and so my wife and I did some financial planning, and she works a job, and so she allowed me to kind of step out of Fortune 300 world and start a company that is founded under the principle that we're going to help young people understand this process. We want nobody left behind, but we also want Tom Pope to understand that if we're able to garner a $1,000 NIL deal as a 17-year-old at high school in Charlotte, North Carolina, that it's not $1,000. It's $860 because we have to pay taxes on that money.
Mhm.
And we also have a give, save, live philosophy that we'll talk about down the road a little bit too. And we want to teach young people how to be giving of their first fruits and then how to save and then how to enjoy and live off that third piece. And so that's really kind of the foundation of where we started. The original intent of BrandBoss was all sports, all genders, and that is exactly what we've been doing, though. You asked me about the last 6 months to a year, and I will tell you that this industry is a football magnet, and that magnet will grab you and it will take a hold of you as fast
Mhm.
as you will let it and let it drag you right into college football. And
Mhm.
I avoided it as long as I could, but I've really found a niche in football, the transition from high school to college, and then I'm finding out how much these college football players really need the most help. So
No question.
that's sort of where we are now. And I'll say one more thing, and that is it's important to me that the audience knows there's no Superman cape here. This is just a dude who wants to help kids, and that is exactly what we're in business for. So
And one of the things I was really impressed with your last time you came on was talking about building a relationship with the athlete all the way through their life. So from whether it's middle school, high school, all the way through their college experience into their pro experience, both building that with you and BrandBoss, but also building it with the different sponsors that are going to pick them up. So I know the best athletes figure out a way to build those lifelong relationships with vendors and with big companies that want to sponsor them.
when you're an
But
agent, you're somewhat of a father figure, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
in some instances. And I will just tell you that there is no pleasure other than your own blood and watching your blood play sports and succeed, and watching somebody who you're so vested in and who you feel like you maybe had a small impact in their life financially and otherwise, and watching these kids move from high school to college, and then have had a few move now from college to pro. And I'm not an NFLPA licensed agent, and so I've had to semi hand off a few people, and it's just a real pleasure, kind of a bittersweet handoff, if you will, making sure we position them with NFL agencies who are going to take good care of them. So very fulfilling.
I think the last time we had Cam on, I really came away with a sense that he was doing this for the right reasons. It was very obvious in our conversations, and I think I would be really comfortable with my boys if they ever got, my boys are 10, if they ever got old enough to start getting advice, because this is a complicated world that we're talking about, and I'd be really comfortable with his advising um, young people I care about into how to set themselves up in this world and to kind of steer themselves. So I think he did himself well the last time we talked. And one cool thing is I think what you're saying is there's been an evolution even since the last time we spoke. If I'm hearing you right, it sounds like you're being pulled a little more towards football than you originally intended it to be. Not exclusively football, but like that was going to be one of your areas, but it's got such a powerful pull. I guess what you're saying is that it's impossible to
It's the big
fight
daddy
it.
in the sports world, right? I mean, it's
If you want to really have an impact, you can't really ignore the fact that you need to be more of a part of football than original intent was here. Quite frankly,
Right.
it's where the most exposure comes from to help
Mhm.
other athletes is by
Yeah.
building your football brand, and then the brands who are working with you from a football perspective, then having them become interested in my women's soccer players.
Right.
And so, there's some of the intent in letting myself be kind of pulled by that magnet. Was it has been good for some of my other, if you will, Olympic sports that aren't quite,
Sure.
what football and basketball are to the
Mhm.
rest of us. So
Hmm.
yeah. So Rob, transfer portal. That has happened since our last call, and we anticipated the fact that we may have a lot to talk about the next time I came on. And quite frankly,
Yep.
for your audience's knowledge, the NCAA football transfer portal opened on January 2nd and it closed on January 16th. This is the
Hmm.
first year, 2026, where there were not two transfer portals, one in the winter and one in
Mhm.
the spring. And we've gone from two to one for a multitude of different reasons. I've got a pros cons list for you there if you guys would like to talk about that. But
Mhm.
in going from two to one, I do think that we have made some improvements from the perspective of the schools themselves. And I'll just give you an example or two, if you don't mind. I would say a pro of one transfer portal, particularly in the month of January, would be roster stability. I would say that's just concentrated roster building for universities and coaching staff. So I would say that's a pro for them. I would say that we see now having one transfer portal, potentially less mid-season chaos, if you will. And I'm speaking just from the perspective of just reduced distractions during the middle of a season where a player now you can't leave as a player. Now you used to could just uproot anytime you wanted, and now you're kind of stuck. And what's interesting about that, we could go down another path on is that coaches can leave and/or are being fired at any time, but the kids can't anymore. So I would
Mhm.
say that transfer portal is very, very pro less season chaos for the universities themselves. And then I think the transfer portal had a postseason positive, pro focus as well. We're able to focus more on competition and what we're about to do in the postseason versus roster management and me needing to start worrying day one. I'm headed to the BCS. Who am I going to lose? We
Mhm.
didn't allow for that with this transfer portal. We got to hang on to our talent. And in fact, if you were in the postseason, your athletes got an extra 5 days to enter the portal after your bowl game and still
Mhm.
got their 15-day window. And I think that was appropriate. So those are some real
That's good.
pros. But if you grasp what I just said, those were mostly pros to the universities and the coaching staffs themselves.
Mhm.
One transfer portal, quite a few cons if I may. And I'll start here. I'll start with just athletic flexibility, just less time for a college athlete to figure out where they fit. Okay, so let's do this again just for everybody. January 2nd to January 16th. So the portal opens at midnight on the 2nd, and all of a sudden the agent or the athlete and or a combination of both's email, their Twitter, their phone is absolutely blowing up because this is the first time that contacting them is not what we call tampering. Okay. I get 5 or 6, 7 calls. If I'm a 5-star, I get 10, 15, 20 calls. I field all of those calls. I listen to the value prop. I've got 15 days to listen to all this, schedule airplane flights, go visit campuses, and make a decision about the rest of my life during a 15-day span. I got to tell you guys that's broken.
Yeah.
Okay. And most people at the NCAA and or otherwise say, okay, big guy, it's broken. Will help me fix it. And I wish I had a perfect fix for you. I don't think our timing is good, first of all, but quite frankly, 15 days on these major decisions, not near enough time. So we're losing athletic flexibility. I will say I could.
What would a
Please.
30-day window do to the universities and roster stability?
Great, and I've got a perfect story for that scenario. So let me tie this into that question, and I'll answer it for you. We have over 15 days, and 30 specifically, we have complete and total academic disruption. Okay, so 30 days going to 15 causes less academic disruption, and I'll give you an example of that, but that'll answer your question. The other bullet point I wanted to make along the lines of cons of the transfer portal is obviously team chemistry. Team chemistry will never be the same. We'll never play with the same team 2 years in a row any more than we'll play with the same team 4 years in a row like we used to, with the freshman brotherhood that came in with us and stayed at that university for 4 years. So there's been a lot lost. So let me give you an example of one of my athletes. This was a Division I lower level, not a P4, but a lower level Division I all conference athlete. Okay. He was an All-America honorable mention, and he was looking potentially for a better opportunity. He has his opportunity at that university. However, it was articulated that being offered an opportunity there by the football staff may cause some issues and delay with an admissions department because of the academic standards. Okay, so it's day 1 of the portal. We need you to bear with us here a few days and let us make sure academically that we can get this done. We want you, but let's make sure we can get this done. Okay. Guys, guess what's happening during that 5 days of waiting on the dream? Other offers are coming in,
Phone's ringing.
but they want to know right now whether we're interested and whether we're going to be on an airplane.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's nerve-wracking.
So, Coach Cam, what do I do? I want to go high academia. I wanted the point to be that education does still matter in some of these, athletic departments. And ultimately, a young man and his parents have quite a decision to make because I'm already in the portal. So, Rob, Tom, what does that mean for me at my current university?
That means you're gone.
They don't have to take you back.
Very good. So let's broach that while we're on it if we could, and y'all continue to ask questions, and I'll give you the ending here. But at my current university, the moment I inform that school that I want to enter the transfer portal, which is generally before January 2nd, they have 48 hours to get my name in the NCAA transfer portal, and at midnight, I'm free game. I can be contacted. It's no longer tampering. All gangbusters, let's go. Okay. So I got gangbuster. I got folks coming in. Well, my coach, who I've told I'm entering the portal, may in some instances say, "Hey, son, I understand you're a great kid. I hate to lose you, but I get it. You know what? I'll hold your spot for 3 or 4 days." Okay. I heard this instance one time through this last portal. I'll hold your spot for 8 days, and I'll use no names here. I'll hold your spot for 8 days. After 8 days of this portal, I need to know because that gives me 7 days to go find another position. Well, guess what happened? That coach found a better replacement for that kid prior to the 8 days were up. And guess what the coach did?
Hold it.
He pulled it.
Yep.
Okay. And I'm not saying you can't trust coach's word, but I'm just saying you've told the coach I'm entering the portal, which says I'm at least remotely interested in leaving your program. That coach has every right to go do what he needs to. I don't think he has a right to tell you 8 days if he's not going to wait on you 8 days, but I do believe that he has the right to start thinking, wait a minute, I need to go fill this spot. And by the way, I need to do it early in this portal because the best players are getting sucked up pretty early in this process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he may not tell you 8 days, but he might immediately hang up and get on the phone like
Hey,
within
if
seconds.
wouldn't we, Rob, like
Yeah.
in fairness, would
I
it
wouldn't make any promises, but I would say
So,
in my head, all right, I gotta replace him.
so
Yeah.
going back to Rob's question about 30 days, would that help the process you're talking about? And two, would a school like Vanderbilt, Virginia, Duke, the schools that care about academics, how would they be able to fit you in when the reason they picked 15 days in the first place was to fit it into the academic calendar? It had nothing to do
I
with sports.
I think a school that's not Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, one of these big ones would like as much time as they can get because even if they're not going to get Georgia's number one target, 30 days allows them more time to go grab a secondary or a third target versus 15 days being, I missed out on the Georgia kid. I made the best run at him. And by the way, the second guy's already gone because Alabama swiped him up. So 30 days gives those universities, in my opinion, more time to dodge, weave, and adjust. Yes. I don't think Georgia and Alabama is going to say that because they've got their eye on the pick of the litter. And guys, did you notice? And I'm not insinuating anything here other than, did you notice how many guys were ready to go at 12:01 the night the portal opened?
I did
Yeah.
notice that.
How does that happen? You know, and Dabo's on, something with this Ole Miss coach. We can talk about, some
It's
of
called
that scenario if
tampering.
you'd
That's
like.
how.
But how do you already know where you're going at 12:01 a.m. when you're
Yeah,
not
no flight.
supposed to be having those conversations prior to 12:01?
Right. You haven't flown to the campus. You haven't
There's
nothing.
no doubt in my mind there's a lot of tampering. There's a lot of
Yeah.
cheating. There's a lot of texting the athletes when they shouldn't be. There's all kinds of stuff happening. No question.
And there's
Cam,
got to
tell me
be,
tell me
there's,
if you're hearing this. It's going through surrogates. Like
Yeah,
a
through your
coach,
friend.
a high school coach is talking to his buddy who's the
Yeah,
offensive coordinator on the
no
staff or
question.
whatever.
well,
And they keep Dabo out of it kind of
let
thing.
me,
Or not Dabo, but keep
let
the
me,
head coach out of it.
Let me answer that for you, and then I'll tell you. I'll land the airplane on the academia situation. Um, 2 years ago, I would send an email to a coach saying, "Hey, coach, it's Cam. I've got a kicker. He's interested in leaving his current spot. What is your kicking situation, and would you be interested in looking at this kid?" Okay. Now, I'm a third party agent, and I was permitted to feel out some things without using specific names back in the day. And back in the day, I would get responses from coaches that would say, I'll take a look, give me more specifics, this, that, or the other. That was about 2 years ago. As of a year ago, those emails changed and it became, Coach, just wondering about your kicking situation. Are you going to need a kicker in this portal? Yes or no? No specifics, right? Not even I have a kid for you. Just I had to change up and I would get back a yes or a no. Okay. This past transfer portal was my third portal's first time this has happened. Hey, coach, I may have a kicker coming up. Are you going to have a kicking need? That's all my email would say as a third party agent. No response this year, period.
Really?
Okay.
Huh.
So you do have the multitudes of coaches playing by the rules. Okay. And I'm talking like we're doing nothing illegal other than finding out whether there may be some interest in how we might can help different universities. I, of course, know who it is in the back of my mind, but I share absolutely nothing with that coach. I just want to know if they might need a kicker or not, because I see that their guy's a senior and I want a response, yes or no. Nothing this year. So I want to give you guys some hope that some people are very, very serious
Hmm.
about the rules, as am I. But you
That's
gotta,
good.
guys, as an agent, as a parent, as an athlete, I mean, you got 15 days. You gotta do some kind of homework. You
Mhm.
gotta at least know, I want to be an engineer, and this is an engineering school. And
Yeah. Let me call
eh,
Purdue.
let me call Purdue. Yeah, let me
Yeah.
do some of that. So back to
NC State.
my smart kid, my all conference kid. At the end of the day, we're passing on Division I opportunities, a couple of which were laced with some NIL. They were all full scholarship offers, but a couple of NIL offers, and we're holding off schools who aren't willing to wait on us. We're
Yeah.
waiting on admissions. And at the end of the day, guys, we had to sit down as a family and we had to say, what's the worst thing that can happen and what's the best thing? Well, the best thing can happen is I get into Vanderbilt, I get into Duke, I get into Harvard, I go play football, I get my dream. The worst thing that can happen is my spot's gone. I passed on 6 scholarships in the first 3 days that the portal was open of the 15, because those schools wanted me, but they wanted me now because they got to move on, because they got to move, right? And they have the
Mhm.
right to do that. So worst case scenario, I go from a D1 all conference player to absolutely zero opportunities, right?
Mhm.
This is a broken piece of the transfer portal. So basically, at the end of the day, we missed on some things that would have been better opportunities. And I will tell you that this young man is young. And so he decided to go back where he was for another year. And he was in a fortunate situation that his spot was still open. Very honorable coach. By the way, he's an all conference guy. And I wish I could promote this school a little bit more, but we're not going to use names. But they held things open, and he
That's great.
went back, and ultimately, we find out that at the highly catered to academic university was going to be able to admit him,
Hmm.
but we already made a commitment, and we're going to
Mhm.
keep that commitment. We're not going to bail on the coach who waited on me and let me come
Mhm.
back even though the portal's still open,
Mhm.
i.e., quite different from the Darian Minshaw situation at Duke, right, with the Miami transfer.
And
Yeah.
we're going to
So,
talk about that later in the
yep,
program.
yep.
Yep.
All right, guys.
So
So there, I couldn't wait to share that with you, because if you and your listeners catch my flow, there's a lot happening fast and there's a lot to lose. And if there's one thing I want to articulate to your folks out there, whether they call me or whether they don't, these kids think that the grass is greener because their coach hurt their feelings, some of them.
mhm.
And that's the
Mhm.
reason that hey, I'm
Mhm.
out of here, man. He hurt my feelings, man. I'm better than he thinks I am. And I am out of here. And they're ending up without a place to go. And I beg some of these kids, I had 13 kids and I placed 9 of them. Okay. 4 of them, I blatantly told, you have no business entering the portal this year. You have no business doing it. And guess what? The 4 of them do not have a place right now. So,
Mhm.
so here it is from me to you is the grass isn't always greener, young people and parents. Sometimes you need to spend a little more time watering the grass you're standing on, and give it a chance.
Well, that is fascinating, and to hear that the 15 days lays out that way, I see why you say it's too short. I can understand that completely. I do have a thought-provoking question for you, Cam. So, I've always been impressed over my, many years of following sports when I listen to interviews of professionals like, Peyton Manning or Tom Brady about what their coaches meant to them, both in college and in high school. That in a lot of ways they were like their second father. Do you consider yourself that way to some of these kids that you've been mentoring? Do you feel like they look at you as kind of like a second father figure? And do you think that we might lose some of that because in the old days a guy would go play for Nick Saban for 4 years and he would consider him his second father, but now with a guy going and playing at 4 or 5 schools in his career in college, can he really build that kind of relationship in a year?
Well, that's a good one, Tom. The answer is I hope so. but I just gave you an example with 13, BrandBoss kids in the portal and 4 of them ending up without a home, though each
Mhm.
family was advised not to enter the portal. Well,
Mhm.
3 of those 4 families are extremely upset with me now.
Yeah, understand.
Okay, because Coach Cam didn't find a home for my child. Yeah, I know what he said, but his job is my job is to find you a home, but my job is first and foremost to advise you. And this isn't an I told you so. This is I had already tested some waters and I knew some things about the kid and what was going on. I knew what their current coach would say about them. I knew what their teammates would say about them. And by the way, D1 programs do their homework. If you think they
Yeah.
don't, they do. We'll talk
Yeah.
about social media in a few minutes. Social media can make you or break you as an athlete in the recruiting process. But Tom, I think that the ones who are happy with you are going to consider you more of a father figure. I think the ones who are disgruntled with you, even if your intentions were right, I think, they may not say anything bad about you, but they may not have as much nice to say, particularly not that you're the
Well,
father figure type. So,
no, but you're always telling the truth. You always you're leveling with them, and some of them don't want to hear it. But
they don't, and I mean this with respect to the worst thing in the world is not when the kid thinks that he's better than he really is. The worst thing in the world is when the parent thinks that the kid is better than the kid really is.
Hmm.
And the parent is mad at the head coach. He's getting screwed by his position coach. He's getting screwed by his agent because my kid is good. I watched him in high school. He was all conference, he was all state, and he should be playing at Alabama. And and I get it. I'm a parent. To an extent, I understand, but what's really, really hard, as far as answering your father figure question is when the parents are too involved in the process. That can make things very, very difficult on the agent
but
and the kid.
how can coaches build a relationship they used to have with these guys these days? They can't. They only get them for a year, and then they're
Yeah.
off again somewhere else.
No,
You can't build that relationship.
no, we touched on this last time. Can I say this again to your listeners?
Yeah.
You're seeing the Dabos, the Sabins, the Krzyzewskis. You're seeing them exit, and Dabo hadn't exited yet, but Dabo's pretty. I love Dabo. Dabo's pretty
Yeah.
disgruntled at the moment.
He's the Tony Bennett, which is our basketball coach at Virginia. He's the
Yes.
Tony Bennett of college football. That's what he is.
Okay. Well, you're seeing this is not what I signed up for. And you're seeing I want to shape young men. I want to make dads and fathers and husbands, and I want them to get a degree, and I want them to do well. I want them to go pro. I want to coach them to be the best at their position that I've ever had. And it doesn't always work out that way. But here's the problem. That used to be what they could spend 100% of their time doing. Now, I would venture to say they get to spend 30 to 40% of their time doing that, and the other 60 to 70%, guys, is on coaching to keep.
Yeah.
Trying to keep your guys.
Coaching to keep.
It's constantly recruiting the same people over and over and over.
And listen, I said this last time too. I believe it. We're humans, so we're creatures. And what creatures do is creatures adapt. So Saban doesn't want to do this, doesn't have to. Dabo doesn't either. Tony Bennett most certainly didn't have to. Jeff Hapley, the guy who left Boston College, he just got a head NFL job because he left Boston College because he didn't want to do this. So, just watching those guys exit as creatures, what ultimately we will end up with is a young generation of coaches who come up and come through, and this is their norm. And so they will be more adaptive to this than a Saban or a Krzyzewski is going to be, because they understand that they're, as a creature, they have adapted to the new norm.
You're
But for
already
us,
seeing. We're watching Mario Cristobal. He's gotten totally used to it. He's mastered it. He's got essentially a new roster every single year, and now they're in the Natty Championship almost every year. So, yeah, there's some coaches that are good at it and some that just don't want to do it.
yeah, but we'll fix it, because again, the younger generation will handle this better than a Saban is going to handle it, just based on
Yep.
this ain't what I signed up for, and this is not what I believe in.
That's
So,
right.
but I think we're going to lose out on some skills training because we're having to spend so much time on the coaching to keep that, where is the actual coaching going to come from at 100% level? I don't know. The kids are going to have to make some adjustments
I
and
can't
the
thank
way.
you enough, Cam, for what you and BrandBoss do for the young kids. I just can't thank you enough because they need direction and advice more than they ever have before.
Well, it's a
And
pleasure.
before we go any further, can we go back to the window opening? What were the dates again?
So this past portal was January 2nd to January 16th, unless you were in the BCS. If you're in the BCS, after your bowl game ended, you had 5 days from the end date of your bowl game to enter the portal, and then you got your 15 days.
You
Does that
had
make
5
sense?
days and then 15 days, so
Yeah,
20 days.
yeah. Because
So
think about it,
when
Rob.
was the
Those kids
national
did.
title?
It was January 19th, so that means you could
19th.
potentially go all the way into early February for those kind of guys.
So
Yeah.
their window is still open.
So 15 days from the 19th. Yeah, so it's got to be. I mean, I don't have anybody in that
Yeah, it's
situation,
gotta
but
be
yeah,
soon.
do
It
the
just
math real quick. But here's what I need you to think about. I need you to think about the fact that the two BCS teams had 5 days to enter and then 15 to explore. Well, most of these colleges, my kids went back to college and started class January 12th.
right.
Hmm.
So think about it. I'm leaving. I find a new place to go to, but by the time I land there, class has been in session for 3 weeks.
A month, yeah, almost a month. Yeah, you're
Right.
pretty behind. Like,
I mean,
Which is
yeah.
why the national championship game used to be on like January 3rd, January 4th, and that's where it
Yep.
should be. It's 2 weeks too late.
Well,
It's
either
way
that or we got to move the portal. That's my
the-
point. My point is have the
move the
championship whenever
portal.
you want to, but like, we got to
But
move the
then,
portal. But
and when you move the portal, then their academic year is all screwed up. So
that's
it makes
exactly right.
way more sense to move back the championship than to move the portal forward.
I think so too.
You got a lot more kids on a college campus going to class than are playing football. So you got to keep the academia calendar
Yeah,
intact, right?
that's
Mhm.
right.
They're
That's
going to
right.
have their Christmas break and then you got to get them back to class. But yeah, that's another piece of this that's very, very difficult
It's true.
is that kid gets to a new university and he's already 3 weeks behind in accounting.
All of December is when they should be playing all these playoff games.
Hmm.
You know what
A
I
lot
mean?
of them had a month off before their bowl game. No, it's just too
Yeah,
much.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
That's something.
unnecessary. But anyway, okay. Well, thanks for answering
So
that. In my head, I was trying to picture if you played for Indiana, when is your window open? That's what I was trying to picture in my head.
yeah, those Indiana kids, obviously nobody could talk to them because they had not been permitted to enter the transfer portal. Back to my postseason focus and one of my pros
Yeah.
here, those kids couldn't be tampered with, right? Or weren't
Mhm.
supposed to be tampered with because they're concentrating and that coach doesn't have to worry about it. But the day the national championship ended, game on, they had 5 days to enter. Their school has
Mhm.
48 hours to put them in, and then they get their 15 days and all heck breaks loose.
But
So
like you said, the coaches can be tampered with.
well, of course they can, and they're tampered with
Yeah.
all the time. Let me ask you this: does it not
Look at
make
Ole Miss.
sense to you guys now why coaches all of a sudden have you noticed the trend? If a college coach, uh, James Franklin, Penn State, if you're going to be fired, I'm going to go ahead and fire you mid-season,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
Why do you think that's happening? We're letting an interim coach take over, but the reason is because everybody's watching what's going on, and my coach is going to be fired. I'm not going to wait till the end of the year and fire him. I'm going to go ahead and fire him now, and I'm going to let anybody know who's entering the transfer portal, who my new coach is going to be, and we're going to start
Well,
recruit. We're going
well,
to
the
start looking
reason
at what we're going to
Yeah,
do.
and the reason
that's
Lane
right.
Kiffin left when he did, which was outrageous in my opinion, I never would have left my program that's going to the national championship tournament, but he did so because the free agency period starts on December 1st, so he had to get to LSU to start working on what his roster was going to look like. So he was forced to do so.
A, a tough decision, right? I don't know if it was a tough decision for him. I'm glad I didn't have to make that
I
one.
wouldn't do it,
Yeah.
but that's
I
what he
mean,
decided.
I get it, but but I guess what he might say to you is, "Hey, man, I'm moving on. This is my new job, and I need to be the best at it I can. And if I don't,
Mhm.
somebody else will. I got to get over here and get to work."
Yeah, he's
I,
thinking this is his dream job.
sure,
You know?
sure. And by the way, these
you
kids are
shouldn't say no.
bailing on me left and right now. So, maybe that's the wrong terminology, but I'm sure some of those kids are saying he bailed on them, right?
Yeah,
Well, he's
yeah, yeah,
probably saying, well, you would bail on me too. So,
To me,
yeah.
if you're old school, the way that I think, I would have stayed. I would have coached them all the way through the end of the Natty game, and then I would have told everybody I'm available.
Yeah.
My season's
I
over.
would open my window as a
Mhm.
coach after I'm done coaching for that year.
I understand. And
Yeah.
I almost wonder if you would have garnered more respect out here for that, and maybe
I
more
think so.
people would want to play for you because you took that stance. I don't know. He had his reasons, and it would be interesting to have him on the Sports Guys and talk about that
It
because I'd love to know.
would. Well, Cam, let's go take a look at some of this great material we got prepared for tonight. You ready?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, let's do a shout out to our sponsor for tonight, and that is Jersey Mike's. Jersey Mike's is a longtime sponsor of the program. We love Jersey Mike's. Matter of fact, a quick anecdote, over the weekend, we had a huge ice storm in North Carolina, and I survived on Jersey Mike's. I had multiple sandwiches I had ordered. So, Robbie, what do you think of Jersey Mike's, and what about your family?
Well, I'm always talking about the 17, the steak sandwich. I love it. The famous Philly. I went Saturday after the boys' basketball game, and everyone loaded up. We got buffalo chicken wrap. That's my girlfriend's favorite. I have my 17. Boys got different variations of turkey, and we took Uncle Bill there. So everybody
Mhm.
got something different, and it was so good. Really fantastic place. I mean, when I walk in there, I know it's going to taste good, and it's going to be an awesome lunch. And we get dinner there too, but we really like to go there after the boys' games.
That's great. Yeah, Jersey Mike's, it's so fresh. The people are so friendly. You can order it
Yeah.
on the app. You can order it online on the website. You can have it DoorDashed or Uber Eats to you. Go check out Jersey Mike's today and get yourself a sub and really enjoy it. I know that I love the number 13. Rob loves the 17. Tell us what you guys think.
It's just a really well-run place, and
Yes,
they have a good brand and a really good product. And as a customer, they they check all the boxes. They're
they do.
great.
They do. It's delicious. So go check it out today, and remember, it's a sub above.
Up above.
All right, so this is our episode, Building Your Brand in the Transfer Portal Era, with Cam Wyrick, his second big appearance on the program. We got the BrandBoss logo there, and I really like this picture down below it of the transfer portal and this kind of image of these athletes entering the portal like it's some kind of time warp, Cam, with NIL deals on one side and enter portal transfer window on the other. So,
Star Trek.
did you notice, Cam, in a lot of the commercials lately, they've been having this concept of guys getting sucked into the portal like it's some kind of storm or time warp or something. So I think,
Dr. Pepper. Yeah.
yeah, Dr. Pepper does it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
What,
right.
what is your thought about that? I mean, the kind of the meme that's out there about the transfer portal being this thing that sucks you in.
Uh, you know, I got sucked in myself, brother, and I didn't want to, and I started a business saying that I wasn't going to. So what I think of it is that it's real, and I don't mind the imagery because we need to be aware that, yes, this is a potential scenario. Is this thing is fast and furious, and 15 days goes by awfully, awfully quick. And
Mhm.
by the way, when one coach's clock is ticking, so is the other, and nobody's waiting on anybody else. So
That's
I
right.
got to make decisions, and I got to make them quick. And the illustration kind of shows that, doesn't it?
Now, I have to
Yeah.
tell you, Cam, how heartwarming it is to me that you said that there are coaches and there are programs that are playing by the rules. That makes me feel good that
For
we have a
sure.
chance of maybe making this a sane situation.
For sure.
I noticed also Chandler Morris, who was our quarterback for Virginia this year, was denied a sixth year. He wanted to stay one more year. And Trinidad Chambliss was also denied a sixth year. So I noticed that the NCAA is not just rubber stamping every request now. They're starting to really analyze your individual case.
No doubt, Tom. And in your profession, you understand how important it is when you make a decision, the precedence that that decision carries. And well, you did it for him, so now you got to do it for me. And I really do think that they're doing a better job, diligence wise, in making
Mhm.
sure that the precedence that gets set is something that we can live with for years and years to come. Because I don't know how you guys feel about it, but 6 years on any college campus shy of injury, that's pretty significant to
It's
me.
true.
Yeah.
It's true.
So, I understand red shirts and I do understand injury, but when you've been at a place 6 years, you're 24, 25 years old, and
yeah.
I think we need to pay attention to that.
So to the right there, you see a couple Miami quarterbacks. 3 years in a row, they brought a guy in for a 1 year kind of rent a quarterback situation. Cam Ward comes in for 1 year, then goes to the NFL. Of course, Carson Beck this year with his 1 year, $5 million NIL deal. And then now we had the situation with Daria Mensa that you just talked about, who had signed a 2 year contract with Duke and then wanted to renege on it 1 year in and go to Miami. And of course, it's been working its way through the courts. So what's your thought about this situation with the big programs with the Mario Cristobals, who seem to have kind of mastered the NIL / transfer portal thing, bring people in for 1 year, kind of a load, a rent a cop or a rent a quarterback situation.
Welcome to college free agency. So, they learn from the best. And, we talked about this last show too, but let's remind your listeners that this is a world of, it is not going to be impossible, parents, but it is going to be much more difficult on your high school senior who's a 3 or 4 star, maybe even some 5 stars. It's going to be very difficult for you to come right out of high school and go directly to Georgia or Alabama or Notre Dame. It is what it is, but free agency is real. And what coaches are looking for is the old baseball taught us this, the old farm league. We're looking for a kid who goes to NC State or goes to Appalachian State or East Carolina or University of Virginia in some instances for 2 years, gets bigger, faster, stronger at the training table, plays high level quality football, and who at age 20 or 21 is now ready to transfer to Notre Dame for a year and then to Georgia for a year to be a star at both of those places. This is a very, very real deal. And the high schoolers are going to have to get their head around the fact that it is okay and not an ego blow to come out of high school highly touted, but go to a place, build yourself for 2 years, and then go achieve your dreams.
So
Young people.
you think we've reached a situation, Cam, where Division III ball is single A, Division II ball is double A, Division I A ball is triple A. Even the group of 5 teams of the AAA, and then you have the major leagues now is the D4 schools and the big programs.
I'll prove it to you
Yeah.
because this is the first year come August of 2026 when that month shows up where D3 schools now if I'm at a D3 school, I must for the first time ever be forced to enter the transfer portal if I'm going to leave. We used to have in D3 we had what was called permission to contact. And that was if I wanted as a D1 school to come talk to one of your D3s, I would contact you first and then I would come to the kid. Well, D3 for the first time ever now is going to have to enter the transfer portal if I'm leaving my D3 school. So there's your proof. Farm League 101. We're in the realm of free agency, and don't get used to having the same quarterback at your major Power 4 university longer than a year or two. It's just not going to happen.
That's amazing. Interesting. So in terms of the vision of BrandBoss, I put it out here. Anything you wanted to add to it?
I tell you, that picture's a little up too close. I need a new mug shot.
You're looking pretty sharp there, Ken.
I don't know. That's it looks like I got chipmunk cheeks there, but yeah, that's the dude right there. And I don't know much about him other than I promise you he cares. So thank you for that acknowledgement. I appreciate you putting that on here.
When you started the idea of BrandBoss, building it around the brand, what was the idea there? It's just that basically you were all about the athlete, you were all about the kid.
Yes. So here it was. You've heard this before, but I mean it from the bottom of my heart. If I don't help them, who's gonna?
True.
And I've said this in some living rooms, and I mean it. Not every agent is out for blood, but I will just tell you that I say to parents, if you want to do business with the Sopranos, you go right ahead. But if you want to do business with the opposite of the Sopranos, BrandBoss was founded for that reason. So. I don't sign these kids to long-term contracts. I don't want their soul. I
Hmm.
want to help them and see them succeed, and we'll move
Hmm.
on to the next one if they don't want my help anymore, because I'll let them go. But in the meantime, let's see if we can't help them and make a better young man, young lady out of them, make some money, and build their future for
You want a string of success stories. That's what you want.
them.
No
Amen.
question. So you already talked a little bit about what the transfer portal is. The one thing I did highlight there in the second line that college sports really have drifted far away from the values that they were traditionally built on, and that loyalty to school and long-term player development is just kind of out the window. So what do you think is going to fill that gap in the current transfer portal? I'm going to transfer every single year scenario. What's
I
going to fill
think
the
that
gap of that long-term development that we used to do?
so back to us being humans just being creatures. I don't mean to be too philosophical, but guess who else are creatures? The fans and the boosters.
Hmm.
Okay. And so right now it stings like heck when our star quarterback or in NC State, you guys know I'm passionate about my ex university. We lost an all ACC running back to the portal and to Alabama. He took a big step. Well, it
Hmm.
hurt like heck the day that I saw that he was entering the portal. But
Hmm.
as I'm starting to get a little more used to this, I'm starting to come around to the fact that this is a next man up type of mentality, and that
Hmm.
NC State and Virginia, one year to the next, are never, ever, ever going to look remotely the same. Days of old, we at least had a chance of 60, 70% of our roster coming back shy of
Hmm.
seniors. Now it's just not the case. So I choose to get more excited about the new faces that are coming into my program than I do to be down in the dumps about the faces who are leaving to better themselves.
Hmm.
I just choose to do that, guys.
Yeah.
And so as fans, younger fans will get more used to this than you and me are, but we're a little bit older, and I just encourage the older generation to adapt because it is here to stay.
Do you think that the building of your brand, and we'll talk some more about it later, but is being hurt for these kind of kids? I know Colin Cowherd talks a lot about both football and basketball. The NFL players that are coming in, the NBA players that are coming in, you don't often get a Cooper Flag of the world who is already a brand when he comes into the NBA. What's happening, a lot of these kids who transfer so many times, they kind of hurt their brand. They go from school to school to school. They don't build up a loyalty and following. They don't sell a lot of T-shirts at Penn State or whatever school they're at. And do you think they're hurting their brand by transferring so many times?
Well, they for sure are, particularly because so many of these college deals are still localized. The pros are the ones who get, the Gatorades and the Nikes, right? But these deals as pertains to a college deal are generally very, very localized, and the brand that has grown up around that university who's a major sponsor wants to sponsor that kid until he leaves Oklahoma, to go to Arkansas. And at that point, the Oklahoma brand has no interest in that kid anymore. And that's number one. Number two is that as a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior at the same university, I have had a mega fan base cheering me on, 7, 8, 9 Saturdays a year for 4 years. Okay. I am a hero in that fan base. And guess who are offering the job opportunities when I'm coming out of college to me if I've been
Mhm.
there 4 years? The local fan base. And I'm talking about the local good jobs in a lot of cases. Well, that's
Mhm.
gone too, because you go to Wisconsin for 1 year, your senior year, chances of you being a Wisconsin local hero at the end of that are slim to none. It's going to be very, very rare. So yeah, there's a lot to be said about the kids' brand and them leaving multiple places. Guys, don't you think it's funny that Monday Night Football, I always enjoy listening to Tom Pope, Virginia University. I always enjoy listening to
Yeah.
the starting lineups. Now
Yep.
these kids are they going to keep doing this? Because the kid's going to come on, hey, I'm Tom Pope, Vanderbilt, App State, Alabama, Georgia.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for them, Cam, to start like when they get introduced to like forget what school they're at, because they've gone to so many schools.
Yeah, they're gonna do away with it because
Yeah.
there's not enough time for every 11 players to name 4 or 5 different schools.
Yeah.
So they're just gonna do
Also,
away with it.
what about the kid that stays 3 years at the university, transfers in the fourth or in the grad school year, and they graduate from a different university, but they're a hero at the school where they were for 2, 3 years, but they're going to graduate from a different school and say, when they're the Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver, I'm so and so, and then they say the second school.
Woo.
Well, that's
First
like
school's
Darian Mensah.
furious.
You just talked about Darian Mensah. Well, I mean, he won
Yeah.
Duke ACC title this year. He became a Duke hero, and they were expecting him to come back and complete his 2-year contract that he signed with NIL. He had millions of dollars on the line, and instead he breaks the contract right in the middle and goes to Miami. And I don't know. I don't know how the fans feel about that.
You just also spoke of Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was a
Yeah.
3-year starter, all ACC performer at NC State, and graduated, got a degree in 3 years, and did a
Yeah.
grad year at Wisconsin. So when he's on Monday Night Football, he says Russell Wilson from a whole pack of Badgers is what he
Right.
says.
Right.
So he
Yeah.
at least gave credit to both. But now we're going to have kids with 4 schools.
Yeah.
And so I think they'll just do away with it. But, yeah, Rob, that happens. And to my point about the jobs, Russell Wilson could get a job anywhere, but that's, it's what he did in the NFL probably. But the kid who goes to Wisconsin for 1 grad year, I'm just not sure what the Wisconsin job market's going to look like for that kid.
It's a weird thing with the portal because, like, you're right, they have restricted it a little bit more this year. There are some more rules, which is good. You have to get permission from your school. You only have the 15 days. But in the old days, you had to sit out a year. Now, you don't have to sit out a year anymore. So essentially, in 4 years, you can go to 4 different schools, and that's happening.
So, guys, this is your show, but I'd love to ask you that question because without too much of a lead in, I believe in my heart of hearts we need to get back after a transfer, after you've transferred one time, and you could talk me into 2, but it's going to be tough. I believe we might need to get back into something where there's a penalty to pay unless you lose your coach. Okay, if you lose your coach, I am fine. If you lose 4 coaches, I got no problem with you leaving 4 times. That just is what it is. Oftentimes we go places to play for people.
When we had Brad Moore and Jackson Moore on for an episode about a year ago, we talked about a solution to this, and we said first transfer is fine. You can go and play right away. Second transfer, you got to sit out a year. You need to have some kind of penalty. And we kind of agreed on that panel that that was the solution. Of course, that's not what ended up coming about. What the NCAA is worried about now is getting sued.
That's right.
Everything they do is about not getting sued. I mean, they put in Tulane and JMU into the college football playoff so that they.
But hold on a second. It used to be the case. So there is precedent. So why would they get sued successfully if they make you sit out for eligibility? What would be the basis for doing that now versus earlier? How could they not be sued, let's say 10 years ago?
People just weren't as litigious around this stuff. There's so much money involved now and so many opportunities through the transfer portal. These players go get lawyers and they sue. That's what happens. That's what Darian Mensah did. He went and got a lawyer.
We started letting them hold the cards when we started letting them make money, and now the kids are holding the cards, and it's getting tougher and tougher to.
I don't think you can put it back in the bottle. Sadly, I think this is essentially a minor league professional league, is what it is.
I think there will be a day. There will be a day where the NCAA has the courage and willing to go fight it, to have some structure, because otherwise I think the NCAA goes away and gets replaced with regional leagues or something where they have no teeth and no ability. So without going too far down into that, I think that there may be some solutions on the horizon that the NCAA are a part of that might fix some of this.
So this is what you talked about, Cam, already. The one single window for football, January 2nd through 16th, and for basketball, it's in April because it's after March Madness. So that kind of makes sense to me. And then essentially when there's a mid-year transfer, if somebody enrolls as a baseball player in the fall at a school and then decides to transfer mid-year, they cannot play for that new school in the spring in the same academic year. So
how is that not a lawsuit? Like,
I don't know, but that seems to be a pretty good restriction, I think, that you can't just transfer mid-year.
Yeah, nobody has any business leaving mid-year and playing for 2 schools in 1 year. No way.
Yeah.
No way.
Right.
So,
but don't you think the lawsuits will come with that as well?
Possibly.
Potentially, it depends on how far we get away from how much academics matters in this equation. Are these kids going to still be student athletes? Because imagine the academic stir up with a mid-season transfer. That is a mid-semester transfer. How does that even
Yeah.
work?
I don't know. It's
You know what I
crazy.
mean? Yeah, you took a half
But
a class somewhere,
I
you
think it was a
know?
big revelation when when Carson Beck said, "I haven't been to class in 2 years." That
I
sent
couldn't believe it.
shockwaves
Wow, no.
Yeah,
through
I
I don't think he was
the
imagine.
supposed to say that, but
blogosphere.
I imagine he got a big hand slap, and there were a lot of people cringing as he said that
Yeah.
too.
no
But
question.
yeah,
Can
anyway,
you
They want
imagine
to
the
continue to
university president is just,
oh
yeah.
they
yeah,
want to they want to continue to pretend that these guys are students, and they're not. And that's
The
just the
university
same.
president wanted to see Mario Cristobal on Monday on that one.
So this
Don't you
football
know?
window, 15-day window, you think it should be 30 days? Is that your solution there?
I don't have a solution, and that's where I'm hypocritical because the only solution I can see is a window and then it being, somewhat earlier so that we don't mess up the academic calendar. But I did think that two windows was too much, and I think that if I'm Alabama or Georgia, back to what I said, the 15-day window is exactly what I want. And if I'm NC State and Virginia, I think the 30-day window is what I want. And so,
Mhm.
who are we pleasing and how are we going to please everybody? And we're not.
Mhm.
But,
I can't
you know,
remember where I heard this, but I do believe that I heard the best solution so far that I've heard, which is move everything back, including the start of the season, to August, early August, before everyone's back in school and stuff. Um, have those games against, lower universities or something.
And
Uh,
scrub games, yeah.
and so you're completely finished by end of November, and you start right into the bowl series and playoffs. You roll bowls all throughout the week, and you do the playoffs through all those 4 weeks of December, and you're done by January 2nd.
yeah, rollback is it, Rob. I think the but there is, but if you have a week or two of scrub games and now everything is based on potentially on strength of schedule and what you've done, you got to
There,
be playing somebody every week to
True,
to be a James Madison as much as a Notre Dame or anybody else.
true.
yeah.
So you just can't afford the scrub games as much anymore. So you got to, there's a lot of change there. There's but
Oh,
in this complex. I mean, again, I sympathize from the perspective that I have some opinions, but I don't have a fix, guys. I don't.
Ohio
Um,
State, Texas was a nice way to start the season, I have to
It
admit.
was. It was.
and
It was.
Miami Notre Dame. I mean, that game. Who
Yeah, yeah,
says
yeah.
week one?
That's
Who
right.
said week one doesn't matter? That
Great
that
game.
Miami Notre Dame game was everything.
It
We had
was
no
such a
idea at
good
that
way to
time
start
that
the season.
we had no
Yeah,
idea at that time that was going to decide who was the last entrant to the playoffs.
it
So
matters now.
basketball's 15 days for the women. It's 6 through 20. Through men, it's 7th through 21st. Same thing. Do you think this is a big enough window for basketball?
No, I think the same rules apply. You just don't have time to get to where you need to make good decisions about your athletic and academic future in a 15-day window.
Okay, so it should be 30 days just because of the travel
Gotta be
situation.
30 days. It
I
has
Yeah,
to be.
think I
I
think
think it's
30 is
30.
awfully fair to the kids.
Me
Can
too.
I tell you guys this about the two windows real
Yeah.
quickly? One of the things that I really used to enjoy and I saw go by the wayside because of two windows was I used to love a little spring game football in April of every year. I just so look forward to going to spring games and watching kids play. And if you saw two portal windows, you saw many of the schools did away with their spring game this past year,
That's
right?
right. Yeah.
Well, the thought process there was because another window is coming open, and I'm not about to give other coaches a chance to watch my spring game and my players for
Mhm.
Yeah.
sake of tampering and coming after them during this
Yeah.
second portal window that
That's
opens.
a
So
good
I'm
point.
just not going to have
Yeah.
a spring game anymore. So this coming year, with the window being where it is, I'm going to be really interested to see if we get some of our spring games back.
I think we will.
Yeah, I bet so. I
Matter of
bet so.
fact, Tony Elliott, who's the coach of Virginia, talked about how they're going to be re-emphasizing the spring game this year. So I think it's coming back. So
I
it's,
hope
Yeah,
so.
and
yeah.
I do think that was a cause and effect situation. And
Mhm.
if you have that stud red shirt running back that you already know what you got, you don't want to parade him out there and let everyone else see what you got.
It's true.
But you want to
No
get your
way.
fan base excited about him, Rob. And that's what I'm saying.
I
That
know.
with one window that's already passed by the time the spring game's here, let's get your fan
Oh
base
yeah.
excited about that kid. Let's give him
True.
the rock a couple times.
Oh
And
yeah.
let's have a
No,
beautiful sunny tailgate.
with one window, he's getting the ball a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the
Absolutely.
mid-year transfers, we all agree that this is a good rule. I mean, I think
So
that
hold
is
on a
pretty
sec.
pretty clear.
It's very different with football than basketball. What I would say with basketball is why not open it right as school ends, like May 1st.
You mean open it a
That way,
second time?
So
move the
yeah, so
basketball window to May 1st. That way, you're not there's no spring football game in the basketball world. Yeah, there is a time constraint, but I think if you get everyone in pretty soon in that early June time frame, you can have all summer to kind of get them ready for.
Or maybe do it right after their finals. Their
I,
finals are
I
usually
think I
over.
think the coaches might argue with you there, Rob. Maybe from the fan perspective, that sounds good. But these coaches, if you're noticing what's happening here, those windows are open in the day after the national championship game, if I'm not mistaken. I think it
Mhm.
says that on here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But these coaches, the sooner they can solidify next year's roster, the sooner they can go on vacation, enjoy a few days.
That's
Okay.
Yeah.
true.
I don't think a coach is going to tell you right after basketball season ends, I want to take a few weeks off and let other coaches tamper with my players before the
Yeah.
portal opens.
That's true.
I think what
That's
they're going to
true.
say is, let me get this over with, let me get my team set, and then I'm going on vacation for a couple weeks.
That's a good
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
That's true. That's a very good point.
So mid-year transfers, we all three agree, right, that this is a good rule. You can't compete at a second school in the same academic year. I
Absolutely.
think that's a really good
Yeah,
rule.
yeah.
So what about transfer windows for your Olympic sports, Cam? Because you got the folks that are really great athletes. Let's say they're a track athlete or they're a lacrosse player or they're a gymnast. What about the rules there for transfer window, or are there any rules?
Yeah, no, I mean we're not seeing anything near the policing in non-revenue sports like what we're seeing with revenue sports. And it's because of that word, it's because of the revenue. And so that world isn't even in the same stratosphere as football and basketball. It's just not
Okay.
even, yeah, it's not even comparable. And
Mhm.
do I think that some tampering could go on? Probably so, but I think that those coaches in those Olympic sports are somewhat incestuous, and I think there's some pretty decent respect in some of the non-revenue sports.
Mhm.
And I believe that there's more of this permission to contact that goes on versus portal transaction.
So if you have a huge Olympic brand, like last time you were on, we talked about the gymnast who had made a huge career out of her Olympic career and then her social media accounts, and she had 10 million followers on X. And for
Yeah.
that kind of person, you're saying there's no real rule. Like Stanford could go after her for her fourth year and bring her
No,
up.
what I'm gonna do with Livy Dunn is I'm gonna sign Livy to a NIL contract that is you can't get out of.
Okay.
You're okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and now you're getting you're a gymnast and you're getting. I think we just saw our first softball player maybe get paid $1 million.
Mhm.
Livy Dunn's gonna be at LSU in an LSU leotard for $2 million because she ain't getting out of here. And if she
Right.
does,
Yeah.
the next school's gonna have to buy it out. So
I got it. I
yeah,
got it.
so she will still be under contract with me.
So the
Yeah,
only restrictions for Olympic athletes is going to be, the NIL type deals they can swing or that they sign for.
correct.
Yeah, gotcha. So speaking of NIL, revenue sharing looks like they're increasing in 2026, 4%, with major programs going to be spending at least 25 to $30 million directly to athletes outside of the NIL collectives. We talked last time you were on about how those are really treated very differently, the revenue sharing versus NIL. So what are your thoughts about this whole scenario and how it's been increasing and the money's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger?
4% this year, 12% next year, 20% the next. It there is no end without guardrails, and we could learn a lesson or two at least from the NFL and the NBA about what salary caps look like and about what quote unquote, rookie contracts look like and what cap space looks like. But
Cam, do
the way college athletics is set up, the rich get richer and they're going to have the bigger, better facilities. And I'm going to argue with you guys that anybody who tells me that money instantly buys championships, I'm going to very quickly reference Kirk Cignetti.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
I'm going to tell you that, yeah, we've seen Texas Tech and their billionaire pop into the top 25 in football and basketball. So the
Yep.
revenue has mattered. But
Mhm.
Kirk Cignetti has a bunch of three-star athletes
Yep.
and half the budget of some of the bigger programs and just kick everybody's butt up and down
I
the
don't know
field
how he did it. It's the
shy of
most
Miami.
amazing story.
I'll
It is.
tell you how good coaching still does matter in the
It does.
NIL revenue share
It does. And
leagues.
what's amazing is at the national championship game, Mark Cuban announced, who's an Indiana grad, that he's opening his pocketbook to Cignetti now. So you can just imagine Cignetti's going to start getting 5 stars now. How good they're going to be with 5 stars.
Well, look, yeah, I'm sure Cignetti's not going to turn that down, but
No.
what I've seen that guy do at James Madison, he was
Yeah.
our offensive coordinator at NC State. He had Phillip Rivers at NC State. I don't know if you
That's
guys
right.
know that, if you've ever
Yeah.
heard of
Yeah, I
that
did.
guy.
I know.
But that guy proved to me that I can still take a bunch of 3 stars and they're smaller than everybody else, but I can teach them to hit gaps quicker. I can teach them how to dodge, blocking. The guy did a masterful
Phenomenal.
job, one of the best coaching jobs I've ever seen, and well,
Yeah.
probably the best. Have you ever seen a
I
better
think it
coaching
was.
job than that?
No, I have not.
Not that I can think of.
Mm-mm.
No.
And
Hey,
actually,
Cam,
Rob,
do you know what the revenue share in the NFL is?
The revenue share in the NFL, as far as the TV contracts and things like that go,
Yeah, like what? Yes.
they get a
no,
$440 million contract
yeah,
payout each team from
each
TV
team,
revenue.
yeah,
It's just TV, 440
yeah.
I'm
million.
just trying to figure out what the player percentage is.
Yeah, how that money gets distributed across
Yeah.
the players is at the discretion of each team. So it's not uniform. But
So,
that's where cap space comes in, right?
Right,
so
right.
Cam, we were very depressed about the Virginia football situation for about 2 decades, and this year Tony Elliott really pulled a nice rabbit out of the hat. One of the ways they did it was Virginia started actually spending money on football, and they became the third highest spender this year in the ACC.
Mm.
So I do think you're right that money doesn't buy championships, but I will say it does buy competitiveness, at least for a
Yeah,
program like Virginia.
absolutely.
does.
Like I said,
It does.
i.e. Texas Tech, who's got more money than anybody,
Exactly.
Yeah.
and they're all of a sudden popping up in both sports.
That's right.
So
That's
so
right.
I don't mean that at all. I just mean that I
No,
can prove to you, thanks to Kirk
coaching makes a
Cignetti,
difference.
that coaching
Yeah,
matters. And by
no
the
doubt.
way, I have a feeling that guy's attrition, as far as not having to coach to keep quite as hard as some of these other guys do, I think you're going to be shocked at who does not leave Indiana.
I agree. They
I
want to
think
be
you're right.
around the greatness of that guy's mind.
He wants
That's
to
right.
make it a destination location. He already has in
Did
2
you
years.
see they were interviewing him a few days ago, and they said, "Where is the national championship trophy right now?" And he said, "Well, it's right over there, but I'm pretty close to having him get it out of here. I don't want to get soft." It's the
I
best.
love
I
it.
mean,
So I
I
have a
love
nobody
question
it.
for
else
you,
talks
Cam.
like that. I don't
I
want to
have a
get
question.
soft.
I have a question for Cam. So Cam, these teams are spending 20 to 30 million on football. How did Florida State, which announced yesterday, as a $450 million deficit from just one season in all their athletic program? How are they
Well,
racking up a debt of 450 million in one season? I
yeah,
don't understand it.
I have a very good friend who works down there, and so I'll be careful here, but I am afraid that some of the decisions of some predecessors put them back for years, and
I
you
mean,
know,
that's a complete disaster for a university like that.
absolutely unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
Mm.
My brother was the senior associate athletic director at an SEC school, several SEC schools, but one in particular. And when he got there happened to be a deficit. And so for the first time, he found out that this school was the only school in the SEC who had never charged people to park.
Right.
So you'd always
Wow.
had your season tickets, but you got your parking for free. And so one of the solutions was, okay, season ticket holders. Number one, I've just caught a bunch of you who have committed $5,000 a year to sit on the 50, and you've only been paying 500. But I've also been giving you free parking, so I'm going to call you out. I'm going to charge you the 500, and I mean the 5,000. And starting this year, not retro backwards, but we're also going to start charging to park. They ran them out of town, man, for charging to park.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
so you care about winning, but you don't care about the deficit
Yeah.
that some people are scared to pony up. And my brother's job was to get that top line revenue dollar back in line, and the fans ran him out of town. So, um,
That's amazing.
yeah,
So some of the ways they tried to improve the transfer portal in 2026 NCAA, they tried to increase stability, which you talked about, Cam. They created the single shorter winter window for football and the 15-day window for basketball. So now you're down to one window instead of two. They also try to limit transfers to one per academic year. They tightened down on stricter academic requirements to curb chaos. They had roster management a big part of their discussion, and then they wanted to also combat tampering, which of course we know goes on all the time. How do you think they did with their targeted improvements to the portal?
I think depending on, how many of these guys you've been around and what some of their high school education looked like, college is tough. And I'll tell you, from an academic perspective, I'm pretty sure of the number. If you want to enter the portal up until this year, you had to have a 2.0, and I believe that went to a 2.5, and to me that's a pretty significant increase. Now there would be some people who would laugh at that and say 2.5, come on, that's, C plus, C plus. But you get an A here and you're just not good at accounting, and you get an F there, you're not at a C plus, you're at a C. And so,
It's an improvement. There's no doubt.
it's an improvement. I mean, it's an improvement. You can't leave here if your grades aren't X. But
Mhm.
personally, I don't want to see it go much higher than a 2.5 to be eligible to transfer. That seems like a
Mhm.
pretty significant first year increase to me
Yeah.
if those numbers are right, and I think they are. The one thing I do like is we call the 40-60-80 rule. And that is that, over your freshman and then sophomore, junior, and senior year, specifically sophomore, junior, senior,
Mhm.
sophomore year, you got to be 40% towards your degree completion. Your second
Mhm.
year, and then your third year, you got to be 60%. And then your fourth year, you got to be at 80% towards degree completion to be able to enter the transfer portal. And I like that. I like
Mhm.
that you can't just be a senior who hasn't
Mhm.
met
I
any
agree.
academic requirement besides making a 2.5, but
Mhm.
you still got 3 years of school left because you've been taking 9 hours or 12 hours to be eligible. I don't like
Mhm.
that. So I
Okay.
do think that the 40, 60, 80, if y'all had not heard of that, I think that's a
That's
very
good.
positive thing. Yeah.
That's very good.
Yeah, I
I
like
agree.
that.
Is there anything else they can do to combat tampering? Because we know it goes on. You've been interacting with coaches lately that sounds like are doing things by the rule. They're not responding to you. Sounds like they're trying to do it the right way, but we know it goes on. We know there's lots of coaches out there that are, like Rob said, working through intermediaries, that kind of thing. Is there anything else we can do? Because in the NFL, you can take away draft picks. You can fine people hundreds of thousands of dollars. You don't really have that in college.
Man, you got to decide what you're going to police, brother. And watch Dabo's press conference. And I tell you, he basically said, I'm gonna call you out. And I told you guys about the hotline last time that the NCAA had established, or most
Hmm.
specifically the CSC, the Sports Commission, had
Right.
established the rat hotline.
Hmm.
But yeah, if you find out for sure they're not following the rules, rat them out. And that Clemson situation, for all of your listeners,
Hmm.
I get where Dabo's coming from. We said we're a fan of his, but do you know that that kid who ended up at Ole Miss was already at Clemson? You guys know this story, right?
I
So
do.
transfer portal's still open, but he's already at Clemson. He's already bought or at least an apartment. He's already bought a car, and he is in class
Yeah.
at Clemson. And towards the last of the days of the transfer portal, calls up the coaching staff and says, "I'm headed to Ole Miss."
Mm,
Yeah.
incredible.
I don't know how you guys, again, the portal's still open. So some would say, is this illegal? Is this tampering? But when a kid has already signed his deal, Darian Minshaw, right? The deal signed,
Well,
And,
that's the other thing is, can we enforce these contracts? Because the reason that Mensah won and was able to split his contract and get out of it was because his argument was a true one, and that is that I'm not an employee of the university. And so we have this weird loophole now, and I know they're still trying to wrestle with it in the courts, but where an NFL employee signs a contract, the team has a retribution back on him if he breaks his contract. But the school doesn't really anymore, because when they sign that contract, they're not really an employee of the university. So we have
yeah,
this.
and you and I weren't in the room, so I don't know if Duke semi let that piece of this off the hook, but the Duke contract was pretty wise from a university perspective, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like this is our guy. And by the way, if I've got these numbers right, Tom, the Duke contract, if I'm not mistaken, was 2 years at $4 million a year. That's
Yes,
$8 million, and
that's
he's
right.
going to Miami for 1 year at 2.2. Something else isn't adding up.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it doesn't add sense.
I'm just not sure I fully understand, but what we don't know is why Duke, in the end, besides holding a young man up, we don't know why they let Miami off the hook and at least didn't make them buy him out. And maybe they did, and it just hadn't come public. I don't know.
There
But
might have been some kind of buyout behind the scenes that we don't know about. It's
yeah,
true.
something still doesn't make sense
Yeah,
there.
it's true.
Yeah.
So I have a couple other things, areas to look at for improvements to the portal. One of the big ones down at the bottom there: should we do a 2-year minimum contract for student athletes, where we can give schools a little bit more stability, give programs a little more stability, and be able to hold them to those contracts? What do you guys
Not a
think?
bad idea, but it'll never happen.
Never happened.
No,
Reason?
I would much prefer to go the route of one transfer is permissible, second transfer comes with a penalty. That
no,
would take care of a lot of this stuff, I
yeah.
think.
Yeah. We can see schools put out 2 year contracts. Heck, Duke just did it. But
Right.
precedence has been set, right? Precedence has been set because
Mhm.
he's out. So these are 1 year we talked about this last time too, guys. To me, college sports, these revenue sports, these are 1 year deals to be renegotiated at the end of the year, period.
Mhm.
NIL and otherwise. This
It's
is
funny. It's funny to watch. Tony Elliott just gave his big kind of end of the year wrap up press conference, and he was talking about how they were celebrating. They were able to save two of their offensive linemen, who were both in the portal during the 2nd through 15, and he and his staff were able to talk them out of it and get them to come back to school. And he was just like totally celebrating. And basically, they spent their whole time in the portal, both recruiting other people's players, but also trying to keep these two big tackles for
wow.
the Wahoos next
And
year.
that used to be time that the coaches
Yeah.
would be talking to high school kids.
So he's probably
That's right.
spending 50% of his time trying to keep his guys, make them not go somewhere else,
Coaching to keep. Do you know if those two
Yeah.
got bigger NIL offers from other schools and still stayed?
I don't know, but I
Okay.
just
Not
know he
sure.
was absolutely celebrating the fact that they kept two offensive linemen.
He's coaching to keep, man.
He's coaching the league.
Maybe Virginia matched it or something.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to hand it over to you here, man. I got a couple really good points. The first one is building your brand and prioritizing genuine engagement over polished ads, NIL marketplaces. And the biggest one is consider hiring an agent, athlete agent who can specialize in this realm, which of course is you and BrandBoss. But what are your overall thoughts about kind of building your brand? What are some of the big points you want to emphasize?
Well, I appreciate that. The number one question I get is, "Hey, Mr. Cam, how quickly can you make me famous on TikTok?" And guys, if I had the answer to that, I'd be doing half days in Tahiti, with the little drinks and umbrellas like everybody always says, because there is no magic button that makes you NIL worthy based on your social media presence overnight. It does not happen. It can't happen. It won't happen to the majority. I see Sabrina listed here and the Caitlin
Yep.
Clarks of the world. They're
Yep.
they're their building of their brand and of their following is a little bit different than the average Joe. And I think everybody
Mhm.
understands that. But there are some very strategic ways that you can go about building your brand. The first thing you got to do is you got to identify your area of expertise. And in my old Fortune 300 world, we would call this identifying your why,
Mhm.
you know? And here's my deal there. And I've got 7 of these, and so I'm going to talk fast. But again, I'll pause after every one of them, and then
Yeah,
we'll try to talk fast for your listeners here.
sounds good.
Hopefully we can teach them something. But in almost all instances, I believe that most individuals are overly passionate about what they find themselves pretty good at. Okay. In fact, in my life, the only thing I've been overly passionate about that I really stink at is the sport of golf. But other than that,
That's
if
me. That's me
the
too.
the things I'm passionate about are generally things I'm pretty good at. And so these are your passions and your joys, your values and your beliefs, your legacy and your impact, your overcoming obstacles and your motivations, right? And so this is one of the first things that we want to do with people as we're identifying what their brand looks like, because the question I ask them is, I can't make you famous on TikTok, but let's at least figure out what your brand is. Let's talk about your why. And they're like, I have no idea. I don't know. Most of them don't know. So I start out with some questions, and I jotted down a couple of my favorites for you, but I got a whole book of these, and I cater these questions to the person, whether they're male or female, what sport they're in, kind of a little bit of their socioeconomic background. We're kind of just trying to figure out the right questions to ask so we can come up with a brand. Okay. So here's a couple of them for you guys, Rob, Tom. What makes you feel the most alive? Okay.
Mhm.
What is the greatest challenge that you've ever overcome? You've heard that one before, right?
Mhm.
Mhm, mhm,
If money were no object, how would you spend your time?
mhm.
That's a good one.
How
It's a
can
great one.
you use your strengths to help others?
Mhm.
Mhm,
What problems are you most capable of solving or influencing for other people?
Mhm.
Okay. What practical skill set do you have that you want to master? So what do you look in the mirror and you're pretty good at, but you say, you know what? That is something I really want to be. I want to be great at that. Okay. I got 2 more for you. What would you do if you knew you could not fail?
Hmm.
What would you do tomorrow if you knew you couldn't fail? Answer me that. Put some time into it, athlete. Think about it. Come back to me and let me know. All right, and here's one I really love, and this is right to the root of it. What type of brand or client would you most enjoy working with? Okay, so again, there's a book of these I've got, and I pull from it based on who I'm talking to and what
Those
it
are
is we're
great.
trying to accomplish. All right, so let me go, and this is where I'll pause right after this, but let me go one step, just one shovel deeper here to be a little bit more specific. Tom and Rob, I'm probably, as your brand boss ambassador, I'm probably not going to come to you and ask you what type of ice cream you like, chocolate,
Mhm.
vanilla, or strawberry. But I tell you what, I am
Mhm.
going to ask you. I'm going to say, hey, boys, what brand of ice cream do you enjoy? What
Mhm.
brand, when you go down the aisle, are you picking out what's cheapest, the Walmart brand, or are you picking out the Briar? Let's not talk chocolate, vanilla, strawberry. Let's talk about the brand
Mhm.
that gets your motor running. Okay,
Howling
energy.
cow.
Howling cow. There you go.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's what's in
Energy.
my freezer right now.
Well, I'm glad. I wish I was at your house.
Mhm.
One last example of that before I open up for questions just on this energy drink. Are you caffeine motivated or are you B12 motivated? Obviously, taste and pep in your step or what are driving the purpose. But let's talk about energy drinks. Let's talk about is it health aspects? Is it the perception of what you look like when you're holding the cool can? Okay, so let's really identify some specifics that prepare us to reach out to these brands
Mhm.
for products and content that you want to create. And here's the airplane being landed on this number one. Sometimes parents, athletes, Tom, Rob, sometimes we have to work for free before we can garner our NIL cash product and equity. Sometimes
Mhm.
we do. Okay. So I'm saying sometimes we might go buy a half gallon of Briars as a brand boss athlete, and we might post ourselves eating it, even though Briars isn't giving us anything, but we are going
Mhm.
to blow Briars up on their Instagram and on their Twitter and on everything they are with you doing that because they
Mhm.
can't do anything with your name, image, likeness till they ink a contract. But we're
That's
going
right.
to get their attention as an athlete with you eating the heck out of it.
I love
Yeah.
that. I
Okay.
love it. That's great.
So that first one, identify your area of expertise. That's number one.
Mhm. That's great. I got a
Questions
question.
there?
I do have a question for you, Cam. So do you ever ask them, who do you model yourself after as an athlete? Who do you give yourself a comp as? Example, Fernando Mendoza, there's a lot of people right now trying to comp him in terms of being a number one draft pick in the NFL. Some are saying, he's Jared Goff, but he can run. Others are saying he's more like Sam Darnold. Do you ever ask them in their sport, is there somebody they model themselves after or they think that they're similar to?
I don't know if I'm on camera right now, but I'm chuckling because last week I had one who has a golf hero who everybody's overly familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
And this kid's a golfer at Mercer University. And I said, okay, so he's your hero. Have you ever reached out to him on social media? Well, no. Well, you model yourself after him and he's your hero. Why don't you at least try? Why don't you reach out? What harm does it do?
Exactly.
But the kids sometimes they don't think like this. This is where BrandBoss comes in. It's like let me challenge you. Let me give you, and by the way, let me reach out to them too. But why in the heck aren't you following them and DMing them and trying to get them to follow you back? What are you afraid of rejection from Tiger Woods?
Right. Exactly.
There's nothing to fear there. Give it a go. What if he follows you back?
That's interesting.
Doesn't hurt.
Yeah. So the answer to your question is absolutely that's in. I've got about 100 of these, and that absolutely is in the arsenal. Yes.
That's a great one.
All right. Number 2.
Yep.
Branding involves updating your social media accounts. So hear me on this, guys. There are 5 billion social media users globally. The average person has 7 different social networks or accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I want you to put yourself in a scenario. I don't know where you are, but I've got 6 and I'm not even an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we talked last time, and make no mistake about it. TikTok rules the world, parents and athletes. Okay. So TikTok rules the world, and it is very important that we have a TikTok presence if we're going to build a brand and we're going to be successful in the NIL world. We can't do it without TikTok. It'd be very, very tough. Okay. A not so close second place is Instagram, that everybody's familiar with. It's not even in the realm of TikTok, but it is number 2.
Okay.
Twitter, we typically find with high schoolers from a getting recruited perspective. Twitter seems to be the way that high schoolers are most reaching out to coaches, sending film and getting response is on Twitter. But I would say that is very, very high school driven, if that helps. And here's the one I want you to pay attention to between now and the next couple of times we get together. I want you to pay attention to LinkedIn. And I love LinkedIn, but I've always been a business professional, and LinkedIn's always been a business professionals network. I am seeing more and more college athletes become active on LinkedIn, and they're doing it the right way. LinkedIn is not a place for you to brag and for you to post your highlights and your videos. It is a place for you to connect with business professionals on a professional level and trying to garner some attention for yourself without it being quote unquote 100% sports related.
Interesting. I never would have thought of LinkedIn for athletes. That's good.
Well, and think about who the business professionals on LinkedIn are. They're CEOs, CFOs, they're chief marketing officers who you're looking for brand deals from. So why wouldn't you take to LinkedIn? But if you go to LinkedIn and start making it a TikTok or a Twitter, a place for fun, they're going to take your account from you, because that's not what it's for. But it is to link with business professionals.
That's good.
Interesting.
All right, I'll try to speed up. Number 3, understand the rules of engagement as you build your brand. The first one's that content creation. You can use BrandBoss or other avenues to create content that reflects your values, your expertise, and your aspirations. Okay. Social media management. Understand your current engagement rates and what you want to get to. Okay. What past content, here's a good one. What past content that you've posted has garnered the most engagement? What have you done? Hey, Sports Guyz, what episodes have you done in the past that have garnered the most views? Understand your audience and what they're paying attention to. And maybe you need to cater more episodes towards that. Right?
The episode you were on the last time
was our best episode.
It might have been
our best episode.
It might have been a soft.
You know what number 2 was?
What?
Norway. Everybody
our
wants to
trip
go
to
to Norway.
Guys,
Yeah.
I guarantee you, and you guys posting on the beach, we remember those things.
Yeah, the
I've
beach.
watched a lot of your stuff, but the
Yeah,
one on the beach didn't really accomplish much, and yet I remember it above
yeah,
almost anything else I've watched because it
yeah.
was you guys. It was
That's
being
right.
real. It was you using you were managing social media when y'all did that, man.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Number four, again, I've only got seven. I'll talk fast. Consistency and sharing content. All right. This is important, parents. In the early days, the more you posted, the more engagement you got. And now we talked about donor exhaustion last episode. Now we've got some posting fatigue that's going
Hmm.
on out here. And so I want to give everybody a couple of my rules of thumb right now. I want to share these for free, okay? As an athlete, I would say 7 to 14 TikTok posts per week. So 1 to
Mhm.
2 TikToks a day.
Okay.
All right. 3 to 5 per week postings on Instagram. And you can use the exact same ones you're putting on TikTok if you want
And
to.
those are what, 10 to 20 seconds? They're pretty
10,
short.
10 to 20 seconds.
Mhm.
And these Instagram posts with 10,000 followers for my athletes are paying $250 a post.
Wow.
So it doesn't stink.
Yeah.
All right.
Hmm.
Mhm.
1 to 2 posts per week on LinkedIn is my recommendation. And I want you to remember this. I want everybody to remember this. We talked about it last time too, guys. Athletes have less time to post. So I encourage athletes to focus more on the meaning of your post and take time to do it right than to worry about. This is the whole quality over quantity deal if you just don't have the time. Okay. But the most important thing I can remind you and your listeners of is this. Remember this. Athletes are garnering 3 times more attention on social media than social media influencers.
Hmm.
You remember me telling you that last time?
That's
I do.
amazing.
I
Here's
remember
what
that.
here's what's amazing about that, guys.
That's
Social
amazing.
media influencers stay at home all day long and post content because they don't have anything else to do.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Athletes have wake up, training table, got to go get taped, got practice, got a tutor, got to go to class, got to come back and watch film, eat, got to go to second practice. Then I got to go to a tutor. Then I got to weight lift. Then I got to go to bed. Okay.
It's incredible.
It's
And by the
All
way,
incredible.
girl.
and they have to
Yeah.
study too if they're a
And
college
ye-
athlete.
and yet,
And they have girlfriends.
girlfriends, man, I got to call
And all
mama.
kinds of distractions.
Got to call mama, right? So,
And
but
they
yet,
gotta call their athletic agent at BrandBoss, tell them what's
man, you
going
got to
on.
check in with BrandBoss. So,
Yeah.
so guys, think about that. So that's what's amazing about the influence that you have a chance to make athletes if
Yeah.
you'll put the work in that I'm talking about here. Because make no mistake, I told you I'm Mickey Mouse one. I got 2 words for you if you want to be famous on TikTok: hard work.
Hmm.
Hard work.
It's
All right.
true.
All right. Here's a big one.
But it sounds like you're saying keep the thing, and then be very deliberate and focused and controlled in your social media.
Rob, if you're all over the place and you're doing food one day and you're doing Pampers diapers the next, everybody's going to be hitting unfollow faster than you can post content.
Yeah,
You got to
that's
be
right.
consistent. You got to
It's true.
identify your why, and you got to stick to it. Stick to
Yeah,
itiveness. All
It's
right.
true.
All right.
yeah.
Here's a huge one for all your listeners. Everybody's going to say, "Ooh, gross." Import your contacts into these social media platforms. I've been there before. I'm raising my hand right now. I feel
Hmm.
like when I hit import contacts, I feel like my privacy is being disturbed. No. What TikTok, what Instagram, what LinkedIn, what these things can do is they can go out and identify thousands of your contacts and their social media handles for you so that
Hmm.
you can connect with these people on social media by only importing your contacts.
That's amazing. Huh.
All right. Are
I
y'all
didn't
y'all
realize
with
that.
me? Like, ooh, that used
Yeah.
to gross me out because I felt like they were impeding, like, jumping into my world, like to getting into my
Mhm.
personal
So I
stuff,
need to
right?
do that
Too
for the
close.
sports guys, is what you're telling me.
You
Yeah,
absolutely do. You
absolutely.
listen, they have their look over their terms and conditions. There's a lot of privacy tucked into these apps. Okay. So
Hmm.
I'm just telling you, look over the fine print. But I have found in most cases it is okay to import your contacts. And then all of a sudden you start hitting up some people's social media that you didn't have before. You follow them, guess what? They're going to follow you back.
Quick question
Okay.
for you. These NIL marketplaces like Open Doors, Market Price, do you work with any of those, or do you work outside of the NIL marketplaces?
I would say that I'm not opposed to it, but aren't we kind of doing the same thing?
I would think
They're
so.
they're
Yeah.
kind of an online agent where I'm kind of a real dude
I
back
got
here.
you. I got
Yeah.
you.
So I don't think that they can't not open doors. And one thing I like about them is they're not asking you for your soul either.
And
But
also,
they
they're not going to give you the good, one-on-one, face-to-face advice you're going to give them, right?
No, they're
They're
going to
more of a-
give you access to companies who might be looking your way.
Right.
I'm gonna go break doors down at companies to make sure they come your way.
Right. Yeah, I got you.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Import contacts. All right. Hey guys, just what is this? Two more. So find and join social media groups that focus on your passions. Okay. This is where you gain followers and get ideas for others in like a group-based environment. So study other influencers, but these social media groups exist out here. And if you
Mhm.
once you identify your why and you figure out kind of what it is that you're passionate about and that your posts are going to be about, then join social media groups and hey, copy other people, guys. It's free. It's free
Mhm.
plagiarism.
Mhm.
Watch what other people in your social media groups, because they're passionate about you, about what you are, watch what they're doing and make
Mhm.
some of your posts about that too. They're not going to get mad at you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And put your own little spin on it, but yeah,
Yeah.
go with a good idea.
Yeah, it's good. I
You
like that.
got it. All right. Very quickly, voice, image, tone. So voice. All right, sports guys, what's your voice? Are you guys funny? Are you inspirational?
Mhm.
Are you religious? What is your style? Is it authentic? I mean, how are people responding to you in your daily life? Like, what do they think you? And here it is in a nutshell. I know far too many people who cannot go to a party because they have too much social anxiety. And yet, those same people can get behind a camera at their house by themselves and they can crush it on TikTok.
Hmm.
Okay. Why is that? It's because they know their voice. They can't go be the life of the party and they just can't make their way around the party. There's too much social anxiety. Some of
Mhm.
those same people are killing it on TikTok. And so your voice matters, what you are. You're sports guys, that's what you are, man. You talk
Yeah.
sports,
Yeah.
Yeah.
all the time. Y'all
People
got
find
to
it funny
figure.
because what we
Yeah.
do is just argue about sports as two brothers.
There it is.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's the voice piece. The image piece is graphics and fundamental design. Mine's behind me. I don't know if I'm still on screen, but
Yeah,
what's
you
your
are.
what's your brand look like? What's your graphic look like? What's your imagery? What's your typography? What's your composition? Okay. And you guys, Tom, you guys done a good job with your sports guys and with your theme song, right? But
Mhm.
athletes need that same thing. They need that brand that
Yep.
we're going to put on a hat and potentially some music that resonates with what their passion is and what their audience is. And then last one is tone. This is so important, guys. If you don't love a product, then don't promote it just because there's money in it. Okay,
Mhm.
because your tone will be seen through by your audience and they will hit unfollow because they know you're bullcrapping about being passionate about that product.
It's really interesting you say that. Rob and I get approached all the
Yeah.
time with many different proposals, and we reject most of them because most of them are
Yeah.
really, really strange products we would never use,
That's
or
absolutely the
services.
truth.
Yeah, happens all the time.
Hey, it's good to get invited to the prom, but you sometimes you don't need that prom date, right? And
You
so
care who the date is. You know what I
I,
mean?
I'm so passionate about this. Last one is earn social media certifications. Okay, most of these platforms, LinkedIn's a big one, have verification acknowledgments that can be earned. What it says is that you're real and you're legit. You got social strategy certification, social content, affiliate marketing. So, there's a list of all these, and what you should do is you should list all of these certifications for social
Mhm.
media that you've gotten on your profile, and heck, make posts about receiving certifications.
Mhm.
Show people, hey, I'm an official influencer for this brand and brag about it. It can be a post in and of itself every week, but you can go get these certifications by putting in just a little bit of work on LinkedIn or on Instagram. And being verified like that tells people who are coming to you that you're real. You're not a bot.
Mm.
Okay.
Hmm.
So
That's
that's
great.
another piece of brand. So let me hush about those, but those are kind of the 7 build your brand principles that I like to start with.
Those are fantastic. I did want to ask
That's
you on the
so
screen
good.
here, do you think that people should start with local partnerships when they're kind of earlier in their career and then build towards big long-term kind of relationships with bigger brands as they get deeper into their careers? Is that how you do it? Or do you try
Yeah.
to build relationships with both local and
Yeah,
national?
I've done enough of these high school deals at $200 or $300 a piece, which is great money for a 17, 18-year-old, but they generally involve Joe's Bar and Grill and a 17-year-old eating those chicken fingers at Joe's and sending it out to 8,000 of his friends.
Hmm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Or her friends. And so, yes, build the partnerships locally. All
Hmm.
right. And then a huge mistake that young kids are making is they're getting bombarded with brand ambassador deals in their
Yeah.
email. And what these brands are saying to you is, hey, if you'll throw a few posts up wearing our jacket or our ankle brace, we'll send you a free ankle brace. Okay.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. What I am saying is Tom Pope, Rob Pope can only get away with so many brand ambassador deals before his audience says, that doggone Tom, he's willing to put on anything and post
Yeah.
it online to make $1. All of a
It's
sudden,
true.
unfollow. See, they're getting you for free by sending you a product and
Hmm.
no cash, and that's fine. But you can only do a few of those. And I want y'all to pardon, I want
Yep.
your listeners to pardon me, but the word's called a brand hoe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
All
get it.
right.
Yeah.
You do
I
not
get
want
it.
to be a brand hoe because you're
No.
done.
So then how do you kind of coach them and counsel them to not become that and still have that rarity where there still feels like there's relationships they've got that are really special? How
First
do
of
you, how
all,
do
we
you,
have to
how do you
be
coach them through
overly
that?
passionate about the product and that it works and that it has made an effect on our life. So that's number one, is we got to love it. If we're going to take it from them and we're going to represent it, we got to love it. We got to use it. And we would want every one of our friends and family members to use it unequivocally. Number two is if we do this ankle brace company and we achieve X, I expect you next post to pay me Y.
Hmm.
Okay. What did I just shift from? I just shifted from a product where I did you one solid because I'm worried about being a brand hoe, but I really believe in this product. I just shifted from measurable goals that, if achieved, the next time we do this, we're going to be talking about cash.
Hmm. Got it.
Mhm.
So do you, after you ask all those great questions, you gave us 7 out of 100, but do you build a strategy plan for that individual person, essentially like a brand strategy or a brand plan that you're going to try to lay
Man,
out over a couple of years? Because the
man,
question is, you look at these brands on the screen here, Michael Jordan, of course, maybe one of the best brands, if not the best ever, with the Jumpman logo. You've got Caitlin Clark, probably has the best brand of any female athlete right now, and almost any athlete. How do you get them to this level? What's the strategy to go from A to B to C to D? Do you turn those questions you ask them in the interview up front
into a brand. Very good
in,
question. Okay.
and into a
I just,
strategy and kind
I
of like,
wanted I wanted to make sure I understood you. So you asked a great question. So as the company started, the very first thing I wanted to do was ask a few questions and build them a brand as quickly as I could so we could get a sweatshirt monogrammed. Okay. What I now do is I ask the questions. I try to help them come up with what their brand might look like, and I send them away to come back to me in a week with those ideas and any others that they've hit because I really want some, if not the majority of this, to be about them.
mhm,
Okay. So I don't think I can come up with things and they can say, oh, yeah, Mr. Cam, I like that. And that's fine and good. It's like decorating a house. I can see it online and say, I love that, but it's hard for me to go into a blank room and say exactly what I want this room to look like. So
mhm,
I really want these kids to, as much as they can, come up with it on their own with me helping pointing them in the right direction. I've got a kid right now and it took forever to get to the root of what he really loves to do because he was ashamed of it. And I think it's genius. And that is the kid loves to cook.
mhm.
Okay. African American male, and the kid loves to cook. So, you know what we're doing now? We're
Mm.
chefing up stuff in the kitchen and we're cooking on the football field, brother.
I love
Yeah.
it.
He
I
Okay.
likes
love
to
it.
cook.
But
You made him different. You made
but
him
it
different
took
than everyone else.
forever for us to
Mhm.
get there. And I knew what it was. And I finally sent him away with, I just want you to think about food for a week. And he came back with, I'm a chef. I'm a chef
Mhm.
on the field, and I fired up in the kitchen. And I
Mhm.
just, that's
I
where
love it.
we're going with his brand. And so
I
Tom,
love
did
it.
I answer you? Because I did too much work for them early on, and it's too much about me when I do that.
You did answer me. I just was wondering if there was a strategy plan for every one of your athletes that comes out of that question process that you took us through. Like an actual document that's their strategic plan for their brand. So I
We,
was just
we
asking.
have, yeah, we have to have some kind of brand if we're going to be on TikTok. But once they go to TikTok, bro, they gotta
No
hustle.
question.
They
And
gotta
then I
hustle.
look at and I look at these three athletes, and they're all very different. Of course, Michael Jordan was in the days where there was no social media. Caitlin Clark has built a lot of her brand on social media. And then you have Bryce Underwood, who essentially had 1 year in college where he made $4 million without even playing a snap yet, had a pretty marginal to average season, and yet he's one of the biggest brands on all of the social media platforms. So whoever the team is around him has done a fabulous job without performance, in my opinion.
Well, this is a great place to land the airplane, but if you'll remember from last episode, this is for your new listeners and a reminder for the old. I would rather you give me a three-star athlete who has 100,000 followers and willing to work their butt off, or
Mhm.
50,000 followers, okay,
Yeah, I remember you
than
said that.
than a
Yeah,
five-star athlete who doesn't have any followers. Okay.
right.
And by the way, you do not have to be a star on the field to be an NIL star. You do
As we
not.
found with Bryce Underwood.
You do not.
Yeah.
Case in point, Michael Jordan,
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark, they have teams now handling their marketing for them. Most people
Mhm.
don't have that luxury, right? They have people posting
Right.
Right.
for them. Okay. But as high school and mostly as college athletes, the content and what our brand looks like has to come from us. And
Mhm.
it takes hard work.
That's amazing.
Have you dealt with any students that or young athletes, I mean, who have struggled a little bit with balancing um, the notoriety and all that, where it pulled them a little bit away from their hard work on the field,
Oh, sure.
like as a massive distraction?
Can be devastating to the field of play.
Hmm.
So the gamble is, am I going to be successful enough in the NIL world and building my following where my following follows me beyond sports and I can carry it into life with me?
That's funny because one of my questions that still remains a little bit is, um, what strategy do you have on building a brand that lasts longer than their playing days? Is there a way to look at the brand in terms of the longevity being much longer than the actual playing days?
Yeah, so the very first part of it when you're establishing your brand had to do with passion. And you remember my golf example, but typically, like I said, Rob, we're passionate about things that we're at least halfway decent at, or else we're
Right.
probably not passionate. I don't think that passion changes much if you're truly passionate about it over the course of your life. So let's get this thing right on the front end and carry it with us into the business world. Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
and Cam, it
I
sounds
heard it.
like the kid who's your chef kid, he's got a career on the Food Network one day, potentially.
He,
Have his
he
own show.
He sure does. And Johnson C. Smith here in Charlotte is a culinary school, but they don't have a
That's true.
football team. So I mean, but he's opening all kinds of avenues for himself. And it
Right.
just took me asking him questions and making him go back and think about it. And then I didn't give him the word chef. I gave him the word food. And he came back and he was like, I get it. I got it. And we're gonna cook. We're gonna cook in the kitchen and we're gonna
Now
fire it
they
up on
call
the
him now they
cook in the
call him the
kitchen and
chef on
fire
the
it up on
field.
the field. Yep. And now let's don't be embarrassed anymore. That's right. Let's have our teammates calling a chef. Heck,
Yeah.
go chef up something and take it into your team.
Let's go,
Right?
chef.
Yeah, yeah. I
Mhm.
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So, do you find it easier to work with kids that are in good home situations with good parental support rather than the kids that might not have the parental support, maybe be living with their grandparents or, might be a foster kid or something like that? Do you find that it's easier? And then secondly, with those kids that might not have the best home situation, do you find that you have to work a little harder and step in a little bit more as kind of the father figure?
Yeah. So of course it's harder. But when I tell you this, I mean it. It is 1,000,000% more fulfilling based on what my purpose in all of this is. Okay.
Mhm.
Because it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough to start. And you can say if you want to, everybody has a cell phone, but everybody doesn't. And it's pretty tough to be a TikTok star without a cell phone. Okay.
100%.
So,
That's right.
we're working on some partnerships and trying to find a ways to put some internet and some cell phones in some people's hands who aren't able to, but
Mhm.
easier to work with people who come from a certain home. Of course, I mean, you know the answer there, but is it fulfilling as all get out when you start with nothing and you come out with smiles and something? You doggone right.
Yeah.
It's the greatest gift in the world. Yeah.
No
Have you
doubt.
guys heard about this young lady who plays for Clemson, the basketball player, point guard, I think she is. Her name is Rusney Augustinite. She's from Lithuania, 22
Okay.
year old.
I don't know
So
that I.
so she's been at Clemson, I guess all 4 years. She's 22, 3 years or 4 years. And she was super homesick and kind of her mom had never been able to watch her come from Lithuania. And her teammates banded together and I guess used NIL money, pretty
Yes. They flew her
extensively.
in.
And they
Yes.
flew the mom in to
It
Yeah.
see the
surprised
game
her.
and everything.
Yeah, it
I, I
surprised her.
did.
And I
I
think
did hear
it
about
was
that.
such a cool story about young people getting NIL money and pooling together their resources and using it to do something good for their teammates. So
Mm.
not everything young people are going to do with this money is always it's going to be positive a lot of the time, and it's going to better people's lives and they can make a big difference. So if they get the good mentoring from BrandBoss and others along the way, good coaches and good mentors, they can do a lot of great things with the NIL money and
I think that's a
the
good point
brand.
because you're going to have some athletes that go off the rails, that get the big money and that, find themselves with the wrong people, the wrong posse around them, and they get bad advice and they go do bad things with it. And there are going to be other situations like the story that Rob just told where, NIL money came into play and was a fantastic situation. They did it for their teammate. She'll never forget that the rest of her life.
Never forget it.
So
Yeah.
what's your thought about that? I mean, you are doing this kind of work right now, Cam, with directing young kids in the right direction. And what do we do with the kids that maybe don't have the good advice?
I just think that there's still a lot of good in the world, guys. I mean, I do. I really believe that. And I believe that there are businesses out here who are willing to help these kids. But I believe that some of these businesses are not being asked to help these
Mhm.
kids. And so when we come in with a value prop and a vision about what we want to do with the kid and with the brand, and
Mhm.
we marry up that my chef
Hmm.
football player uses a certain kind of utensil in the kitchen every time he
Mhm.
cooks and he loves it, and we turn that into a life-changing deal for him and ROI for the company.
Yeah,
um,
win-win.
that's what it's about. I told you guys this before. I consider myself a filter because I'm for the kid, yes, and that's who I'm signed with. But I owe it to the brand to bring them the right kind of kid, which is why I can't take on every kid who calls me. I just can't because sometimes it's not a good marriage. And
Mhm.
so I mess up one brand by sending them the wrong kid, I'm done.
That's
Yeah.
true. It's
So
very true.
I have to filter the brand and I have to filter the kid as well.
100% true.
Yeah.
So, Cam, tell us how people can contact you.
Well, there it is, my brother, and I love. I'm a email beast, and so I love email. I would be fine if you put my cell phone on here for next time we visit. You see the email here, and our website is professionally done, and it's not the slickest thing in the world, but it gives you a good idea about what we're about and what we do. And
But
we
contact Cam and see if he can help your athlete that you have in your life. I'm sure he can give them good advice, either whether they go with Brand Boss or somebody else. He can put you on the right path. So, well, Cam, I can't thank you enough for coming in tonight to talk to the Sports Guys round two. We talked about it last time. We knew that we had a lot more to talk to you about, helping us muddle through this whole transfer portal confusing situation we're in. And the build your brand stuff was fascinating. I really love that. I can't wait to watch it back.
Yeah, it was excellent.
Well, you guys are a pleasure, man. Like I said, two dudes, brothers getting together, talking ball. I mean, I think it's incredible, and I wish God's blessings on your business and on your following. And appreciate everybody hanging in here with us. I know this was a long one, so hopefully we can keep everybody's attention. But yeah, hopefully if we help a kid or two out of what we did tonight, man, it's just so worth it.
Next time you come, maybe you can tell us a couple of your other new stories that you built up. I know you're going to continue to build great stories every year, and we look forward to it.
Be a pleasure, guys.
Have a great one. And guys,
All
like
right.
the video, subscribe to the channel, and please contact Cam when you can. And have a great night.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, Cam.
You betcha. Thank you.